The alien ship called Gentle Dawn floated through the darkness of space. Inside, 50,000 Vilithians lived their peaceful lives. They were a gentle species, with soft, glowing skin that changed colors with their emotions. They had never fought a war. They didn't even have weapons on their ship. Captain Lix was on the bridge when the sensors started screaming. She looked at the screen and her skin turned white with fear. 70 ships appeared from nowhere. They were dark, covered in sharp edges and weapons. The Ravagers had found them. Lix knew what Ravagers did. Everyone in the galaxy knew. They attacked peaceful species and consumed them. They left nothing behind. No survivors. No mercy, shields up, Lix ordered, but her voice shook. The Vilithian shields were designed to protect against space rocks, not military weapons. Within seconds, the Ravagers started firing. The shields held for maybe 2 minutes before they started failing. Send a distress signal, Lix told her communications officer. Send it on every frequency. Tell them we're peaceful. Tell them we have children. The officer sent the message. It went out across the galaxy, reaching dozens of listening posts and hundreds of ships. The message was simple and desperate. To anyone who can hear this, we are peaceful. We have children. They are killing us, please. The Galactic Council received the message first. They had thousands of member species and controlled most of the galaxy. They discussed the situation for exactly 3 minutes before deciding to do nothing. The Council had a rule about Ravager attacks. Don't interfere. They believed the Ravagers were natural, like predators in a forest. Some species survive, some don't. That was the way of things. One by one, other species received the distress call. One by one, they ignored it. Some felt bad about it. Most just deleted the message and continued with their day. The message traveled far, reaching the edge of known space. There, a small human listening post picked it up. Commander Tay was alone on the night shift when the signal came through. He put on his headphones and listened. He heard the screams. He heard the explosions. He heard a mother begging someone to save her daughter. He heard children crying in the background. Tay sat in his chair for exactly 10 seconds. His hands were shaking. Then he moved. He didn't call Earth Command. He didn't wait for permission. He knew what they would say. They would tell him to file a report. They would tell him to wait for orders. People would die while he waited. He activated the emergency beacon. The beacon only got used for one thing: when civilians needed immediate help. The nearest human military ship would respond automatically. The THS Righteous Fury was 8 hours away. It was a massive warship, one of Earth's Dreadnought-class vessels. Captain High commanded it along with 2 other dreadnoughts and 12 smaller destroyer ships. She was in her quarters when the alarm sounded. High ran to the bridge. Her crew was already at their stations. Lieutenant Key showed her the message on the main screen. Distress signal from Commander Tay, Key said. Civilian ship under attack by Ravagers. 50,000 people on board. High didn't hesitate. All ships, combat speed. Set course for those coordinates. Battle stations, my captain, Kai said carefully. Earth Command hasn't authorized this. The Galactic Council has a non-interference policy with Ravager attacks. High looked at him. Her eyes were cold. Did you hear the message, Lieutenant? Yes, Captain. Did you hear the children? Yes, Captain. Then we're going. Send word to Earth Command after we're already moving. They can court-martial me later if they want. The human fleet turned and accelerated. The ships pushed their engines hard, going faster than was really safe. But speed mattered now. Every minute counted. On the Gentle Dawn, things were getting worse. The Ravagers had breached the outer hull. Their boarding parties were inside the ship now. Lix heard the screaming from the lower decks. The Ravagers were hunting her people through the corridors. Lix gathered everyone she could find and took them to the sanctuary chambers deep in the ship. These were the strongest rooms, designed to survive even if the rest of the ship was destroyed. 3,000 Vilithians crowded into the chambers. The rest were already dead or hiding elsewhere in the ship. Lix held her daughter close. Her daughter was only 6 years old. Her skin was flashing between blue and white, showing her terror. Mom, are we going to die? Lix wanted to lie. She wanted to tell her daughter that everything would be okay, but Vilithians couldn't lie well. Their skin always showed the truth. I don't know, baby. I sent a message asking for help. Will someone come? I don't know. Outside the sanctuary, the Ravagers were getting closer. Lix could hear them tearing through the ship, moving toward the life signs they detected. The doors were strong, but they wouldn't hold forever. The human fleet was still 7 hours away. The gentle dawn had maybe 2 hours before the sanctuary was breached. In the darkness of space, human warships flew faster than they ever had before. The crews were preparing for battle. Marines checked their weapons and armor. Fighter pilots ran system checks. Medical teams prepared for casualties. Captain High stood on her bridge and watched the clock count down. Every minute that passed meant more dead civilians. She thought about turning back. She thought about the rules she was breaking. She thought about the court-martial she might face. Then she thought about the children crying in that distress signal. She thought about how she would feel if she did nothing. She thought about living with that choice for the rest of her life. "Faster," she told her crew. "Push the engines to maximum. I don't care if we burn them out." The ships accelerated even more. Warning alarms started going off. The engines were running at dangerous levels. The crews ignored the warnings. 7 hours became 6. 6 became 5. But it still wasn't fast enough. On the gentle dawn, the Ravagers reached the sanctuary doors and started cutting through them. The human fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel right into the middle of the battle. Captain High stood on her bridge and looked at the main screen. What she saw made her jaw tighten. The gentle dawn was surrounded by Ravager ships. Pieces of the alien vessel were floating in space. Bodies, too. Hundreds of them. The Velithians had been dumped into space like garbage. Some of them were children. "Tactical report," High said. Her voice was calm, but her hands gripped the armrests of her chair hard enough to hurt. Lieutenant Key worked his console. 70 Ravager vessels. Most are cruiser class. 3 are heavy battleships. They have the gentle dawn surrounded. Life signs show about 3,000 Velithians still alive inside. "And the Ravagers are boarding?" "Yes, Captain. Multiple breach points. They're inside the ship now." High looked at the numbers. 70 enemy ships. The human fleet had 15 ships total. They were outnumbered badly. Any normal species would retreat. They would report back and wait for reinforcements. Humans weren't normal. All ships, High broadcast to her fleet. Weapons free. No quarter. No survivors. I want every single Ravager ship destroyed. Show them what happens when they hurt children. Commander Dong commanded the destroyer squadron. His 12 ships moved forward first. The destroyers were smaller than the dreadnoughts, faster and more agile. But they were still human ships, which meant they were built like tanks. Most alien ships tried to avoid getting hit. They had elegant shields and they fought at safe distances. Human ships were different. Human shields were brute force, massive power cores running at levels that would terrify safety engineers. The shields could take incredible punishment. Dong's destroyers accelerated directly toward the Ravager fleet. The Ravagers opened fire. Energy beams and missiles filled the space between the two fleets. The human shields lit up as they absorbed the hits. Alarms went off on every human ship. The crews ignored them. The destroyers didn't slow down. They flew straight into the Ravager formation at full combat speed. At point-blank range, the human ships opened fire. Railguns launched slugs of metal faster than normal missiles could fly. Plasma cannons fired beams hot enough to melt through ship hulls like butter. Missile launchers emptied their tubes, sending hundreds of warheads at the enemy. The first 30 Ravager ships died in less than a minute. They simply exploded or broke apart. The human weapons were designed to kill other humans, and humans built everything to survive Earth. Weapons that could crack bunkers built to survive earthquakes, shields that could handle solar flares, ships built to operate in conditions that would destroy normal vessels. The Ravagers had never faced anything like this. The 3 dreadnoughts moved in behind the destroyers. These were the real monsters of the human fleet. Each one was over 2 kilometers long and carried enough weapons to destroy a small moon. Captain High's ship, the Righteous Fury, led the formation. "Target their battleships," High ordered. "Remove their command structure." The dreadnoughts fired their main guns. These were massive cannons that ran the entire length of the ship. When they fired, the whole ship shook. The rounds they launched were the size of small buildings, moving at incredible speed. The first Ravager battleship took a direct hit to the center. The ship didn't explode. It just came apart, breaking into pieces that tumbled through space. The second battleship tried to turn and run. It didn't make it. The third battleship fired back, its weapons hammering the Righteous Fury's shields. "The shields held, barely. Return fire," High said calmly. Full spread. Every weapon on the Righteous Fury fired at once. The Ravager battleship disappeared in a ball of fire and debris. Fighter Pilot U launched from her carrier with 40 other pilots. Human fighters were small and fast, and they pulled maneuvers that would kill most alien pilots. The G-forces were intense. U's flight suit squeezed her body to keep blood flowing to her brain. It hurt, but she ignored it. "Target the boarding craft," U transmitted to her squadron. "There are civilians on that ship. Precision shots only." The fighters dove toward the gentle dawn. Ravager boarding craft were attached to the hull like ticks on a dog. U's targeting computer locked on. She fired a burst from her cannon and one boarding craft exploded. She moved to the next target and fired again. Around her, the other fighters were doing the same. It was dangerous work. They had to get close to the civilian ship and fire accurately while dodging enemy fire. 2 human fighters were hit and destroyed. The pilots didn't have time to eject, but the boarding craft were dying. One by one, U and her squadron blew them off the hull. Inside the gentle dawn, Lix heard the explosions. The sanctuary doors were half cut through. The Ravagers would breach them in minutes. She held her daughter and prepared to die. Then the explosions stopped. The Ravagers outside the door suddenly ran away. Lix heard weapons fire in the distance. Different weapons, louder weapons. A voice came over the ship's communication system. It was a human voice, speaking in rough but understandable Galactic Common. "This is Commander Tay of the Terran Fleet to survivors of the Gentle Dawn. We received your message. Stay where you are. We're coming to get you." Lix started crying. Her daughter looked up at her. "Mom, your skin is turning gold." Gold was the color of hope for Velithians. Lix hadn't felt hope in hours. Outside, the battle was ending. The Ravagers were trying to run now. They sent surrender signals. They broadcast messages asking for mercy. The humans ignored every single one. Captain High had said no survivors. She meant it. The last Ravager ship tried to escape into faster-than-light travel. Lieutenant Kai locked onto it with the main cannon. "Target locked, Captain." "Fire," the cannon roared. The shot crossed the distance in seconds and hit the Ravager ship just as it was jumping away. The ship exploded, and the explosion was visible even from thousands of kilometers away. The battle was over. 70 Ravager ships had attacked the Gentle Dawn. 0 Ravager ships survived. The human fleet had taken damage. 3 destroyers needed repairs. 2 fighters were destroyed. 17 human crew members were dead. But the mission wasn't finished yet. 3,000 Velithians were still trapped on a dying ship, surrounded by Ravager boarding parties that were now trapped too. Commander Siok, High transmitted to her Marine commander. "The ship is yours. Get those civilians out. Kill anything that tries to stop you." Siok's voice came back immediately. "Yes, Captain. Marines are ready to deploy." 300 human Marines in powered armor prepared to board the Gentle Dawn. They checked their weapons one final time. The weapons were brutal, designed for ship-to-ship combat. Rifles that fired explosive rounds. Shotguns that could punch through bulkheads. Grenades that most species considered war crimes. The Marines launched from their ships in boarding pods. The pods slammed into the Gentle Dawn's hull and cut through. The Marines poured into the ship. What happened next wouldn't be a battle. It would be an extermination. Commander Siok led his Marines through the corridors of the Gentle Dawn. The ship was a nightmare. Bodies everywhere, blood on the walls. The Ravagers had been thorough in their killing. Siok's armor was 2 meters tall and covered in weapons. His helmet had sensors that could see in the dark and detect heat signatures. Right now, those sensors were showing him Ravager life signs ahead. A lot of them. "Contact front," Siok transmitted to his squad. Weapons hot. The Ravagers came around the corner. There were maybe 20 of them. They were big creatures covered in sharp plates and carrying weapons that looked like they were made from scavenged ship parts. When they saw the humans, they made a sound that was supposed to frighten prey species. It was a deep rumbling roar combined with clicking sounds. The Marines didn't react. They just opened fire. The Ravagers had evolved to terrify weaker species. They used fear as a weapon. Their armor was designed to look scary. Their weapons were meant to cause pain. Everything about them was built around hunting prey that couldn't fight back. They had never fought humans before. Human weapons were designed to kill other humans. And humans were the deadliest predator on Earth. A planet that tried to kill its inhabitants every single day. The rifles the Marines carried fired rounds that could punch through starship hulls. The Ravagers' armor might as well have been paper. The fight lasted about 5 seconds. 20 Ravagers died. 0 Marines were injured. Siok moved forward, stepping over the bodies. His helmet camera recorded everything. Command wanted documentation of what happened here. They found more Ravagers in the next corridor. These ones were feeding. Siok's camera showed what they were feeding on. He felt his stomach turn, but his hand stayed steady as he raised his rifle. His squad eliminated the Ravagers quickly. The Marines moved deeper into the ship, clearing it room by room. Sometimes the Ravagers tried to fight. Sometimes they tried to run. It didn't matter. The orders were clear. No survivors. Bo was part of the 2nd Marine Squad. She found a group of Velithians hiding in what looked like a storage room. There were maybe 40 of them, all children and their teachers. When Bo's squad breached the door, the Velithians screamed and huddled together in fear. Bo quickly removed her helmet. She was young, maybe 25, with kind eyes. "It's okay," she said in basic Galactic Common. "We're here to help. We're humans. You're safe now." One of the teachers, an older Velithian whose skin was pale with fear, looked at Bo. "The monsters? We're killing them," Bo said simply. "All of them. Can you walk?" The teacher nodded. Bo's squad helped the Velithians out of the room and guided them toward the evacuation point. One small child was too scared to move. Bo picked her up and carried her. The child's skin slowly changed from white to light blue, less afraid now. Siok reached the sanctuary chambers. The Ravagers had almost cut through the doors. His Marines set up defensive positions and called out in Galactic Common. "Velithians inside, this is the human Marines. We're coming in. Please move away from the doors." They cut through the rest of the door carefully. When it opened, 3,000 Velithians stared at the armored humans. For a moment, nobody moved. Then Siok removed his helmet. He looked at the crowd of terrified aliens. Many of them were injured. Many were children. All of them had just survived the worst day of their lives. "I'm Commander Siok," he said. "We're from Earth. We heard your distress call. I'm sorry we couldn't get here faster." Lix pushed her way to the front of the crowd. Her daughter was in her arms. "You came," she said. Her voice was hoarse from screaming. "We sent the message to everyone. Only you came," Siok nodded. "We came as fast as we could. We need to evacuate you now. The ship is heavily damaged. Can your people move?" Lix looked at the 3,000 survivors behind her. "Some are injured. Some are too scared. But we'll move." The evacuation took hours. The Marines organized it carefully. The injured went first, carried by Marines in their powered armor. Then the children. Then everyone else. Medic Da was working frantically in the temporary medical station the humans set up. She was a field medic trained for combat injuries. She had never worked on Velithian biology before, but people were dying, so she figured it out. A Velithian girl had been shot by a Ravager weapon. The wound was bad. Da didn't know Velithian anatomy. She didn't know which organs were vital. She just did what made sense. Stop the bleeding. Keep the patient alive. Figure out the details later. The girl survived. So did most of the other wounded. Da saved lives through sheer determination and refusal to give up. The Marines gave their own supplies to the Velithians. Food rations, water, emergency blankets. The mission wasn't supposed to include refugees, so they didn't have supplies for them. The Marines just gave their own. One Marine, a big guy named Jin, gave his entire week's food ration to a Velithian family. When his squad leader asked why, Jin just shrugged. "They need it more than me. I can go hungry for a few days." The evacuation was almost complete when Siok's team found the last group of Ravagers. They were trapped in the engineering section, cut off from their ships. When the Marines arrived, the Ravagers tried to surrender. Siok looked at them. He looked at his orders. No survivors. He thought about the bodies he had seen in the corridors. The children who had been killed. The families torn apart, he gave the order. His Marines executed every Ravager in that room. On the bridge of the Righteous Fury, Captain Hai watched the evacuation progress. Her intelligence officer, Mi, was going through the data they had recovered from the Ravager ships. "Captain," Mi said quietly, "you need to see this." Hai looked at the screen. It showed records from the Ravager database. Hundreds of attacks. Thousands of destroyed ships. Entire species wiped out. The Ravagers kept records of their kills like trophies. They had been doing this for centuries. How many? Hai asked. At least 40 species extinct. Maybe more. The records go back a long way. Hai felt cold anger settle in her chest. She looked at the tactical display. One Ravager command ship was still intact, trying to limp away on damaged engines. "Target that ship," Hai ordered. "Full power to the main cannon." Kai looked at her. Captain, the battle is over. That ship is no threat. That ship has the same records we found. The same trophy list. Target it. Kai entered the commands. Locked on. Fire. The main cannon of the Righteous Fury fired at maximum power. The shot hit the Ravager command ship and vaporized it instantly. There was no explosion. The ship just ceased to exist. Chai broadcast on all frequencies, making sure every species in range could hear. This is Captain Hai of the Terran fleet. Let it be known across the galaxy. Humanity does not tolerate monsters. Any species that preys on civilians will face us, and we will show no mercy. The message spread across the galaxy faster than light. Some species were horrified. Some were grateful. Some were terrified of what humanity had become. The last Velithians were transferred to human ships. The Gentle Dawn was too damaged to save. They would have to abandon it. Lix stood on the bridge of the Righteous Fury with her daughter. She looked at the debris field. 70 Ravager ships, now just floating wreckage. The fleet that had killed so many of her people was gone. Why did you come? Lix asked Captain Hai. Your council didn't order this. Our council told us no one would answer. Why risk your lives for strangers? Hai looked at the Velithian child in Lix's arms. The child was staring at the stars with wide eyes. On Earth we have many different cultures, Hai said. But we all learned something important. Evil wins when good people do nothing. We heard your call. We couldn't ignore it. Lix's skin turned gold again. The color of hope. Thank you, she whispered. The human fleet turned and began the journey back to friendly space. They carried 3,000 Velithian refugees. They had started a galactic incident, and they didn't care. The Galactic Council met in emergency session 3 days after the battle. The council chamber was massive, built to hold representatives from hundreds of species. Today, every seat was filled. Ambassador Hyun stood in the center of the chamber. He was Earth's representative to the council, a former teacher who had learned dozens of alien languages and cultures. He looked calm, but inside he was nervous. The council was angry. The council leader, an ancient being from a species that had ruled the galaxy for thousands of years, spoke first. Ambassador Hyun, your species has committed an act of war. You interfered in a natural event. You destroyed 70 ships. You have violated the most sacred law of this council. Hyun listened patiently. Around him, hundreds of alien representatives murmured their agreement. Some looked angry. Some looked scared. None looked friendly. The non-interference doctrine has kept peace in this galaxy for millennia, another council member said. The Ravagers serve a purpose. They cull weak civilizations. This allows the strong to survive and evolve. Your species has disrupted the natural order. More agreement from the chamber. Hyun waited for them to finish. Finally, he spoke. May I present evidence? The council leader looked surprised. Evidence? Yes. Evidence that will explain why my species did what we did. The council leader gestured permission. Hyun activated his display. A recording began to play. It was the distress call from the Gentle Dawn. The chamber fell silent as they listened. The screams, the explosions, the children crying. A mother begging someone, anyone, to save her baby. The recording went on for 3 minutes. No one in the chamber moved. When it ended, Hyun spoke quietly. You all received this message. Every single species in this chamber heard this call for help. And you did nothing. The law requires... A council member started. I know what your law requires, Hyun said, his voice harder now. Your law required you to sit and do nothing while 50,000 civilians were murdered. Your law required you to let children die because it's natural. Your law is wrong. The chamber erupted in angry voices. The council leader called for order. It took several minutes for the noise to die down. You cannot simply declare our laws wrong, the council leader said. Who are you to judge thousands of years of galactic civilization? I'm a human, Hyun said simply. We're new to the galaxy. We don't have thousands of years of tradition, but we know right from wrong. We know that when someone calls for help, you help them. Even if it's dangerous. Even if it breaks your rules. A representative from the Cathari species stood up. She was old, her fur gray with age. 300 years ago, she said, the Ravagers attacked our colony. 500,000 of my people lived there. We sent the same distress call. We begged for help. The chamber was silent now, listening. No one came, the Cathari representative continued. For 3 days we fought with mining equipment and colony tools. We lost. 40,000 of my people died. The rest escaped in whatever ships could fly. I was there. I was a child. I remember waiting for someone to save us. She looked directly at the council leader. If humans had been in this galaxy then, they would have come. They would have saved my people, and you would have called it a violation of law, just like you're doing now. Other representatives started standing. A young species that had only joined the council 50 years ago. An older species that remembered when they were weak. One by one, they spoke about unanswered distress calls, about pleas for help that went ignored, about the price of the council's neutrality. The council leader looked around the chamber. The unity was breaking. Some species supported the old ways. Others were questioning everything they had been taught. This is chaos, the council leader said. If we allow this, where does it end? Any species could claim humanitarian reasons for war. Hyun stepped forward. We're not asking for permission. We're informing you. Humanity will answer distress calls. We will protect those who cannot protect themselves. If you want to call that war, then we're at war. But we won't stop. The implications were huge. Humanity was essentially declaring themselves the galaxy's protector, whether the galaxy wanted it or not. Behind the scenes, another negotiation was happening. Officer Sun was Earth's trade representative. While the council argued about morality, Sun was talking about money. Human technology had become important to dozens of species. Human manufacturing was efficient. Human medicine was advanced. Human energy production was cheap and clean. Many species now depended on trade with Earth. Sun met privately with representatives from 30 species. His message was simple. Support humanity's position or the trade deals end. It wasn't a threat. It was just reality. Earth couldn't trade with species that called them war criminals. The species that depended on human technology had to choose. The vote happened 2 days later. The council voted on whether to condemn humanity's actions and demand they stop interfering. The vote was close. Very close. In the end, the council passed a new resolution. Provisional Autonomous Defense Authorization. It was a complicated name for a simple idea. Humanity could keep doing what they were doing as long as they only responded to distress calls and didn't start wars. It was a compromise. Nobody was happy with it. But it meant humanity could continue their mission without being declared enemies of the council. Ambassador Hyun left the council chamber and sent a message to Earth. We won, sort of, but not everyone accepted the decision. A group of older species, led by the Zelquari, met in secret. The Zelquari were an ancient and powerful species. They had been in the galaxy longer than most others. They didn't like change. Their leader sent a private message to Earth Command. The message was simple and direct. You have made enemies today. The galaxy survived for eons before you arrived. It will survive your extinction as well. Admiral Rin received the message at Earth's military headquarters. She read it carefully, then called her staff together. The Zelquari just threatened us, she said. Start reconnaissance of their space. I want to know their fleet positions, their shipyards, their military capabilities. If they want war, we'll be ready. Are we preparing for war with the Council? One of her officers asked nervously. No, Rin said. We're preparing to defend ourselves if attacked. There's a difference. Keep monitoring all Council communications. I want to know what they're planning. Earth had won a political victory, but they had also made powerful enemies. On a human ship heading back to Earth, the Velithian refugees were settling in. Lick sat in the observation deck with her daughter, watching the stars. A human crew member, a young woman named G, came to check on them. How are you feeling? G asked. Strange, Lix admitted. We lost our home. So many of our people died. But I feel hope. Is that wrong? No, G said gently. Hope is never wrong. You're alive. Your daughter is alive. That's what matters. Lix's daughter was playing with a toy one of the Marines had made for her. It was just a carved piece of metal, but she loved it. Where will we go? Lix asked. Earth is preparing a colony world for your people, G said. It's called New Dawn. It's safe, protected. You'll be able to rebuild there. And you'll protect us, even though your council argues about it? G smiled. The council can argue all they want. We'll keep protecting people who need it. That's what humans do. Lix watched her daughter play. For the first time in days, she felt like maybe things would be okay. In the Galactic Council chamber, representatives were still arguing. Some called humanity heroes. Some called them dangerous. Some called them naive. But across the galaxy, on small colony worlds and civilian ships, people heard the story of the Gentle Dawn. They heard how humans had answered a call that everyone else ignored. They heard how 3,000 Vilithians survived because one species decided that doing the right thing was more important than following rules. And on those small worlds and civilian ships, people started to hope. Maybe the galaxy was changing. Maybe someone was finally watching out for them. The galaxy would never be the same. 6 months had passed since the rescue of the Gentle Dawn. The galaxy had changed in that short time. Commander Tay stood in the control center of Haven's Watch, the new human listening station that monitored distress signals across the galaxy. He had been promoted for his decision to call for help without permission. Now he ran the entire Sentinel network, a chain of listening posts that covered most of known space. His console showed 43 distress calls received in the past 6 months. 31 had been false alarms or minor problems that local authorities handled. 12 had required human military intervention. The numbers told a story. Word was spreading. When you called for help, humans answered. On the colony world called New Dawn, the Vilithians were rebuilding. Lix walked through the main settlement watching her people work. They were building homes, planting crops, creating a new life. The world was beautiful, with purple grass and orange skies. Ambassador Hyun was visiting from Earth. He walked beside Lix as she showed him the colony. Your people are adapting well, he said. We're changing, Lix admitted. My daughter wants to join your military when she's old enough. Can you imagine? A Vilithian warrior? We were always peaceful. Peace isn't weakness, Hyun said. But sometimes peace needs defenders. They watched Vilithian children playing with human children in a park. The two species looked completely different, but the children didn't care. They were just playing. You're changing us, Lix said. We're learning to be strong, not just to survive, but to protect others. Some of my people have started training in self-defense. One young Vilithian just enrolled in your medical school. Hyun smiled. We're not changing you. We're just showing you that being peaceful doesn't mean being helpless. You can be kind and still be strong. Across the galaxy, the Ravagers were learning a hard lesson. Their attacks had dropped by 70%. They were afraid now, afraid of the humans. Captain J commanded the hunter-killer squadron that patrolled former Ravager hunting grounds. His flagship, the Relentless Mercy, had become famous. The name confused many aliens. How could Mercy be relentless? But the Ravagers understood. Humans would mercilessly hunt predators to protect the innocent. Jay's ship detected a Ravager fleet preparing to attack a mining colony. The colony had only 1,000 people. The Ravagers had 20 ships. Before, they would have attacked without worry. Now they hesitated. They scanned for human ships. When they detected the Relentless Mercy, they ran. Jay's squadron chased them for 3 hours before destroying every single ship. The mining colony never even knew they had been in danger. Species that had been saved by humans started forming alliances. The Cathari shared their advanced sensor technology. The Vilithians helped with sustainable farming techniques. A warrior, species called the Broken Fang, offered to fight alongside human forces. They called it the Haven Alliance. It wasn't an empire. No one species ruled. Instead, a council of equals made decisions together. Each species contributed what they could. Humanity provided military protection, but the vision belonged to everyone. The Galactic Council watched this new alliance grow with concern. Some council members saw it as a threat. Others saw it as the future. The Zelquari decided to test humanity's resolve. They blockaded a major trade route that human ships used. Their demand was simple: end the interference doctrine or face economic isolation. Admiral Rin received the report in her office on Earth. She studied the situation carefully. The blockade would hurt human trade, but backing down would show weakness. She chose a third option: send orders to all ships on that route, she told her staff. Proceed as normal. Ignore the blockade. Ignore it? Her chief of staff asked. Admiral, they'll fire on our ships. Will they? Rin smiled coldly. Run the numbers. What happens if they fire on a human cargo ship? Her staff ran the calculations. Human shields were designed to survive military combat. Zelquari weapons were designed for intimidation, not actual war. A human cargo ship could take dozens of hits and barely notice. They can't hurt our ships, the chief of staff said slowly. Not without a full military assault. Exactly, Rin said. And if they launch a full military assault on civilian cargo ships, they become the aggressors. The Council would have to act against them. They're trapped by their own rules. The human cargo ships flew through the blockade as if it wasn't there. The Zelquari fired warning shots. The shots hit the shields and did nothing. The human ships didn't even slow down. The Zelquari faced a choice: escalate to real war against a species that had already proven it was willing to fight, or back down and look weak. They chose survival. The blockade ended quietly 3 days later. 1 year after the rescue of the Gentle Dawn, humanity held a memorial service. It was broadcast across the galaxy. Representatives from dozens of species attended. Admiral Hai, promoted from captain after her actions, gave the main speech. She stood before a monument listing the names of all the Velithians who had died. We didn't ask to be your protectors, Hai said. Her voice was quiet but firm. We didn't seek this responsibility. But we can't unhear the cries we've heard. We can't unsee the suffering we've witnessed. She paused, looking at the crowd. Humans, Velithians, Cathari, and dozens of other species, all together. Some call us Deathworlders, barbarians, warmongers. Maybe we are. Earth made us hard. It made us dangerous. But it also made us this. When someone screams for help, we come running. Not for profit, not for power, because it's right. She turned to face the cameras that broadcast her words across the galaxy. To any predator species watching this, humanity is here now. We are armed, we are watching, and we will not look away. To any civilian colony, any peaceful species, any child afraid in the dark, you are not alone. Call, and we will answer. With fire if necessary. But we will answer. The speech spread across the galaxy within hours. Some species were inspired, some were frightened, all of them understood. The galaxy had new rules now. In a small school in Sol on Earth, children of multiple species learned together. Teacher Yoon led a class that included human, Velithian, and Cathari children. A young Velithian girl raised her hand. She was Lix's daughter, the same child who had survived the attack on the Gentle Dawn. Teacher Yoon, she asked, why do humans always help? Aren't you afraid? Yoon smiled gently. We are afraid. Fear is natural, but being afraid and being brave aren't opposites. Bravery is being afraid and doing what's right anyway. The Velithian girl thought about this. She touched the patch on her uniform. It showed the symbol of the Haven Alliance. She had already decided what she wanted to be when she grew up, a protector, like the humans who saved her mother. Deep in space, at Haven's watch, an alarm sounded. Commander Tay looked at his console. Another distress signal. A civilian transport, under attack by pirates, 50 lives in danger. Tay didn't hesitate. He activated the emergency beacon. Across human space, warships changed course. Marines prepared their gear. Fighter pilots ran to their ships. They didn't need orders. They heard the call for help. That was enough. The message went out. Distress signal received. We're coming. The transport ship called Bright Hope was being boarded when the human fleet arrived. The pirates expected an easy target. Instead, they found themselves facing human destroyers. The battle was short. The pirates had 20 ships. They all tried to surrender. The humans accepted their surrender this time. These weren't ravagers. These were just criminals who could be arrested and tried. The civilians on the Bright Hope were rescued. Some were injured, but all survived. They asked their rescuers why they came. "Because you called," a young Marine named Hana said simply. "That's what we do." Back on Earth, in the military command center, Admiral Rin reviewed the reports. 43 distress calls answered, hundreds of lives saved. The Haven Alliance growing stronger, the Ravagers in retreat. "Any new threats?" she asked her intelligence officer. "Nothing immediate. The Zelquari are quiet. The Council is still divided but not hostile. The Haven Alliance continues to grow." Rin nodded. "Good. Keep monitoring. Keep preparing. Peace is nice, but it only lasts if you're ready to defend it." In the observation deck of a ship heading to New Dawn, Lix watched the stars with her daughter. Another group of Velithian refugees was being relocated to join the colony. "Mom," her daughter said, "when I'm older, can I join the human fleet? You want to be a soldier? I want to be like the Marines who saved us. I want to help people." Lix hugged her daughter. "Then yes, when you're old enough you can join. But remember, being strong isn't about fighting. It's about protecting those who can't protect themselves. Like the humans do? Exactly like the humans do." Across the galaxy, on countless worlds, similar conversations were happening. The rescue of the Gentle Dawn had become a story parents told their children, a reminder that help could come from unexpected places, that doing the right thing mattered more than following rules. In the darkness of space, human ships patrolled, listening, watching, ready. The galaxy was vast and full of dangers, but now it also had guardians. The Deathworlders had answered the call, and they would keep answering as many times as it took. Because when someone screamed for help in the darkness, someone needed to bring the fire that drove back the shadows. And humanity had decided that someone would be them. The new galaxy was being born,